15 years. That's how long Toyota will keep covering the hybrid battery in a British Toyota. 15 years from the date it was first registered, and thousands of owners lose that cover in year 9 without ever being told it existed. Not because anybody hid it, because nobody had a reason to mention it. Here's the one thing to hold on to for the whole video, and it decides every item on this list. None of this is a fault. Every single one of these is your Toyota working exactly as designed. And every single one has a bill attached to not knowing it. That's the rule. 13 of them, and the bills get bigger as we go down. And listen, before you settle in, a fair chunk of this is hybrid only. If you've got a 1.0 petrol A-Go, 4 or 5 of these don't touch you at all, and I'd rather say that now than have you sit through 20 minutes waiting for your car to turn up. I'm Terry, and this is Vintage Vehicles. No manufacturer pays us a penny. No press cars, and we don't sell cars. Everything here comes from published data, and we'll tell you which is which. Do me a favour before we start. Hit subscribe. It's free and it costs you nothing, and this is the sort of thing that stops a mate signing for something daft on a Saturday morning. Everything in this one comes off Toyota UK's own published material, the warranty terms, the DVSA MOT inspection manual, what car, and current UK glass and garage trade pricing. Where a figure is a range, it's a range because the trade quotes a range, and will say so. And here's what we haven't got. Toyota doesn't publish failure rates by model in this country. So anywhere you hear a number in this video, it's a price or a term of cover. It is never a percentage of cars going bang. Anybody quoting you a failure rate for a Toyota hybrid battery in Britain has made it up. Right? Number 13. Push-button start has been on nearly every Toyota sold here for 15 years. When the fob goes flat, the car behaves like the key isn't there. Doors won't open on the handle. Press the start button and you get nothing but a warning on the dash. Fair play to the panic. It looks exactly like a breakdown. It isn't. There are 2 systems in that fob, not one. The radio side runs off the little coin battery, and that's what talks to the car from 10 feet away. Buried underneath it, there's a transponder chip with no power supply at all. It's a coil. The car's got a matching coil built into the start button, or right by the steering column, and when you hold the fob against it, the car's coil energizes the chip in your hand and reads it back. No battery involved anywhere in that handshake. That's the immobilizer, and it's been in cars since the 90s. So you hold the fob flat against the start button, foot on the brake, and press the button with the fob itself. It starts. Your manual says exactly where the spot is, and it's in the index under key battery. What it saves you is a recovery call-out you never needed. If you're not in a breakdown club, that's a 3-figure bill for a £2 battery. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Every Toyota with auto up and auto down learns where the top and bottom of the glass are. Get the 12-volt battery swapped, or let it go flat over a cold week, and the one touch stops working. The window moves in dribs while you hold the switch and won't go all the way on its own. Now, that genuinely can be a failed motor, and if the glass is slow and groaning on the way up, it probably is. That's the honest version. But most of the time, nothing's broken. The window module stores the fully shut position as a count of pulses from the motor. It uses that stored figure to know when to stop, and to know when the glass has hit something that shouldn't be there and needs to reverse. Cut the power and the module dumps the count. Toyota does that deliberately. A module that guesses where the glass ends is a module that can trap a kid's arm, so it refuses to guess. You put it back yourself. Hold the switch down until the glass is fully open. Keep holding a second longer. Then hold it up until it's fully shut. Hold another second. That's it. One window at a time, under a minute. People pay a diagnostic hour for that. Half an hour of main dealer labour in this country isn't far off 50 quid. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Most Toyotas sold here since roughly 2010 come with a compressor and a bottle of sealant instead of a spare wheel. It's lighter, it frees up boot space, and Toyota will tell you it deals with the majority of punctures. That bit's true. Most punctures are a nail in the tread and the kit handles it fine. Two things nobody points out. First, the sealant has a date printed on the bottle. It's a liquid with a shelf life. Past it, it can thicken or separate and do absolutely nothing when you need it. Nobody checks because it lives under the boot floor next to the jack and gets looked at once on the day the car was handed over. Second, that kit does tread. It does not do a sidewall, and it does not do a tyre that's come off the bead. Curb the inner wall on a Yorkshire back road and the bottle's decoration. So lift the boot floor this week and read the date. A replacement bottle is under 30 quid, and know which failure it can't fix, because that's the one where you're stood on a hard shoulder in the rain, finding out. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. This one matters because there's a story going round, mostly out of America, that your Toyota has a hidden menu showing the pressure in all 4 tyres, and you've just got to find it. On a lot of British Toyotas, that menu does not exist. Toyota UK's own explanation is straightforward. Most current Toyotas here use a direct system, a battery sensor built into each valve. But plenty of them are what the trade calls low line. The sensor measures, the car decides, and all you ever get is a warning light. No numbers anywhere. And some, certain Yaris among them, have no sensors in the wheels at all. They work it out from the ABS wheel speed sensors, because an underinflated tyre is a slightly smaller tyre and turns slightly faster than the rest. There's nothing to display because nothing is measuring pressure. What all of them have is a reset. A set button, usually under the steering column or in the glove box, or a menu item on the newer ones. Here's where it costs you. That system judges everything against a baseline it learned. Inflate your tyres properly and don't reset it, and the baseline's now wrong. Swap onto winter wheels, don't reset it, same again. You end up with a light you've ignored for months, or worse, a system quietly telling you everything's fine on a tyre that isn't. Inflate them cold, then reset. 30 seconds. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Every Toyota hybrid has it, and a fair few owners have decided it means boost or brake, or that it's the sports setting. It's none of those. B is engine braking. Pull the selector back into B and the car uses the petrol engine as a brake, spinning it against its own compression to hold you back on a descent. Exactly like dropping a manual into third down a hill. And here's why it costs you. In normal D, lifting off sends that energy back into the battery through the generator. That's regen. That's free miles. In B, a chunk of it goes into pumping losses in an engine that isn't making any power. You're throwing it away as heat instead of banking it. Drive round town all day in B and your fuel figure drops for nothing at all. Where B earns its keep is a proper long descent. A Pennine Pass, a Welsh mountain road, where the battery fills right up, regen backs off because there's nowhere to put the energy, and the friction brakes would otherwise be doing the lot and getting hot. So, B for long hills, D for everything else. Not for traffic, not for wet roundabouts, not for towing on the flat. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Damp February morning. You start a Corolla or a Yaris hybrid and the petrol engine fires up and stays running. Press EV mode and it either refuses outright or drops out in seconds. 3 miles later, it's still going. You know the feeling. You paid extra for a hybrid and the thing behaves like a petrol car every morning of the winter. Nothing's wrong. The system's got a warm-up strategy and it will not be argued with. A cold engine burns badly, and unburnt fuel washes down the bores and dilutes the oil. A cold catalytic converter doesn't clean anything at all, so until it lights off, the car is putting out more than it's certified to. And a cold traction battery can't take a heavy charge or give a heavy discharge without hurting itself. So the car runs the engine to heat the heat the coolant, and warm the cabin, and it holds the electric side back until all three are happy. The real cost isn't the car, it's the trip. 2 miles to the shops and 2 miles back, every day, and it never finishes warming up. That's the worst possible use of a hybrid, and it'll show up in the fuel figure and in the state of the oil. If that's your driving, and it is for a lot of people, the hybrid isn't earning its money, not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Ask most people what powers a Prius or a RAV hybrid, and they'll point at the big battery. There's a second one, an ordinary 12-volt lead-acid battery in the boot on a Prius, under the bonnet on plenty of others. And it's the one that ruins mornings. The 12-volt doesn't turn the engine over. A hybrid hasn't got a starter motor in the way you're thinking. What it does is wake the computers up and close the main relays to the high-voltage pack. No 12 volts, no relays, no car. The dash flickers, you get a Christmas tree of warning lights, and the whole thing is stone dead with a fully charged traction battery sat 6 feet away. Why they die early is the driving. That battery only gets charged when the car's in ready. Short trips in the cold with headlights, heater and heated screen all pulling take out more than a 10-minute run puts back. Do that all winter, and a battery that should see 5 years is finished at 3. There's a jump terminal under the bonnet for exactly this, marked in the manual. You connect to that, never to the battery in the boot. And you never jump-start somebody else's car off a hybrid. There's no alternator behind it to carry the load. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. This one catches out careful owners, and it's a hybrid problem specifically. Give Toyota its due here, because regenerative braking works. Lift off or brake gently, and the electric motor does the slowing and puts current back into the battery. The friction brakes barely get touched. Pads that had be gone at 40,000 miles on a petrol car are still healthy at 80. That's the problem. A brake disc is a lump of cast iron sat out in British weather. It rusts overnight. What normally cleans it off is you braking. The pad wipes the surface every single time you stop. On a hybrid, the pad hardly ever touches it, so the rust never gets wiped. It sits, it goes deeper, it pits the face. The trade's been seeing this for years now. Discs with plenty of thickness left but a braking surface that's corroded, and on hybrids and EVs, it's turned into a common MOT advisory and sometimes the reason for a rejection. Discs needing replacing before the pads do, which is the exact opposite of every car you've owned. Now be fair about it. Surface rust after a wet night wipes off in 3 stops and means nothing. It's pitting that doesn't clean up you're looking for, and a wide unused band round the edge. What helps is deliberate braking. Once a week, safe empty road, a few firm stops from 30. Discs, pads and calipers run somewhere around 150 to 350 an axle in this country, depending on the car and the garage. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. If your Toyota's got safety sense, and almost everything since about 2015 has, there's a camera behind the glass up by the mirror. That camera runs lane departure, automatic high beam, and the pre-collision braking. Take the windscreen out, put a new one in, and that camera has moved. Not much. A fraction of a degree of tilt, a couple of millimeters across, and it cannot tell. It's got no way of knowing the horizon it's looking at has shifted, so it carries on using the old numbers. That's the mechanism, and it's why "it feels fine" means nothing here. Toyota's own service procedure calls for the front recognition camera to be relearned after any windscreen removal. Optical axis learning, done with a target board at a measured distance on a level floor or a road drive on a defined route, depending on the model. It is not something the car sorts out on its own over a week of pottering about. In the UK, camera calibration on its own gets quoted from around £190 upwards. Radar work runs higher. Glass and calibration together typically lands somewhere between 500 and 1,000. If it's an insurance job, ask before they fit. Is the calibration included, and will you get the certificate? Some do it in one visit, some quietly don't do it at all. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing, and this is the one where the bill might not be money. Keyless entry works because the fob is listening. The car sends out a low-power ping, the fob hears it and answers, and the door unlocks when you touch the handle. Relay theft is nothing cleverer than two blokes and two boxes. One stands by your front door and picks up the car's ping, the other stands by the car. They just extend the conversation across your driveway. Your key never moves off the hall table and it never leaves your house. Toyota's got a function for this. It's called a battery-saving function in the manual, which is precisely why nobody's read it. Hold the lock button down, and while you're still holding it, press unlock twice. The little light on the fob flashes a few times. The fob has stopped listening. It won't answer a ping from anywhere. Press any button to wake it back up. Be honest about what it does. It kills relay attack because relay attack needs the fob to answer. It does nothing about a thief plugging into the diagnostic socket and programming a new key, and it does nothing if you've left the doors unlocked. A steering lock still earns its place on the drive. Costs nothing. 2 seconds at the front door. A Faraday pouch does the same job for a tenner if you'd rather have something you can see. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Quick favour before the top 3. If this is any use to you, give the like button a tap. Takes a second, costs you nothing, and it shoves this in front of somebody who's about to sign for the wrong motor this weekend. Cheers. Catalytic converter theft hit Toyota hybrids harder than almost anything else on British roads, and there's a mechanical reason for it that nobody explains. In a hybrid, the engine spends a lot of its life switched off, so the converter runs cooler and sees less exhaust gas than it would on a petrol car of the same age. The precious metals inside it, the platinum and the palladium and the rhodium, degrade less. A hybrid cat is worth more to a scrap dealer than the identical part off a petrol car. Add a Prius sitting reasonably high off the ground, and it's a 2-minute job with a battery saw. Toyota UK has named the ones that got hit hardest. 2nd generation Prius, 3rd generation Prius, and the 2nd generation Auris hybrid. If yours is one of those 3, this is your item. What they did about it is the cat lock, a stainless cage over the converter with anti-tamper fixings, plus a marking kit that etches a serial number into the metal. It's Thatcham accredited and police approved, and Toyota states publicly that it sells it at cost and makes nothing on it. Reported prices have run somewhere in the 200 to 300 range fitted, so ring your Toyota centre for today's figure rather than take mine. Set that against a cat and exhaust replacement that's run past £1,000, plus your excess, plus what a theft claim does to next year's premium. And be straight about it, because Toyota is. It stops an opportunist. It won't stop somebody determined with the right kit and enough time. Not a fault. A bill for not knowing. Right. Sit down for this one, because this is where the money genuinely is. Toyota's manufacturer warranty on a new car in this country is 3 years or 60,000 miles. But every time the car has a qualifying full or interim service at an official Toyota centre, Toyota adds another 12 months or 10,000 miles of manufacturer warranty on top. Service it again next year, another 12 months. That carries on until the car's 10 years old or has done 100,000 miles, whichever lands first. On the models with 2-year intervals, it's 24 months and 20,000. Now the part most people don't know, it isn't tied to the first owner and it isn't tied to where the car was bought. Toyota's published position is that any eligible Toyota qualifies. Second-hand, third-hand, bought privately off somebody's driveway. If it's under 10 years and under 100,000 miles, take it in for a proper service and it comes back out with manufacturer warranty on it, nothing to sign. It's recorded on the network and noted on your invoice. And it stays with the car when you sell it, which is worth something on the advert. The honest side, because there is one, it's dealer servicing, and that costs more than the independent down the road. Where items aren't covered, brakes, clutch, bulbs, tyres, batteries, pre-existing faults aren't covered, so you can't turn up with a knocking noise and expect the service to bury it. Miss a service and the cover lapses, though the next qualifying one brings it back. So it's a straight sum, and it's yours to do. The difference between the dealer price and the independent price once a year against manufacturer cover on a gearbox. Not a fault, a bill for not knowing. Right. If you've stuck with me this far, do me a favour and subscribe before I get to number 1. Because number 1 is the one nobody sees coming, and it's the one that's worth the most. Everybody's heard that a hybrid battery is a £4,000 or £5,000 bill sat waiting. That's what puts people off buying an 8-year-old Toyota hybrid, and it's a decent part of why they're cheap. Here's what's actually published. While the car's inside the Relax program, the warranty contract includes the hybrid battery and the hybrid health check is done as part of the service. Fine. Then the car turns 10 or goes past 100,000 miles and it drops out of Relax. Most owners assume that's the end of it. It isn't. Toyota's published position is that once the vehicle is no longer eligible for the 10-year cover, extended cover on the hybrid battery and its components can be carried on through a standalone hybrid health check. A check on its own, without a service attached. Renewed year after year, up to the car reaching 15 years from the date of first registration. Dealer groups advertise that standalone check at around £45 when the car isn't otherwise due in. Say that back slowly. A 2014 Toyota hybrid on the right paperwork can still be carrying manufacturer cover on the single most expensive component in it, well into the back end of this decade. And it's conditional and it's unforgiving, which is exactly why so few people are on it. Miss the annual check and the chain brakes. It has to be an authorised Toyota centre. Terms and prices change, so ring and ask before you rely on any of it. What it's worth isn't only the repair you might never need, it's the resale. A 10-year-old hybrid with an unbroken run of health checks stamped in the book is a completely different car to a buyer than an identical one with a gap in it. And on a forecourt today, those two cars are priced far closer together than that difference deserves. Not a fault. The biggest bill on this list for not knowing. Right? The lot in one go. 13. Dead fob, hold it flat against the start button. 12. Windows relearn themselves in under a minute after a battery change. 11. The sealant bottle has a date on it and it can't do a sidewall. 10. Reset the tyre pressure system after you inflate and stop hunting for a menu that isn't there. 9. B is for long hills, not for town. 8. Cold morning, engine running, nothing's broken. It's the short trips that are the problem. 7. The 12 volt is what wakes the car up and short winter journeys kill it. 6. Regen saves your pads and rots your discs. Brake properly once a week. 5. New windscreen means the camera needs calibrating. Get it in writing. 4. Hold lock, press unlock twice. The key stops listening. 3. Cat lock, sold at cost if you've got a Gen 2 or Gen 3 Prius or an Auris hybrid. 2. Relax. Every qualifying dealer service adds 12 months up to 10 years on any eligible Toyota, whoever you bought it off. 1. The hybrid health check keeps battery cover running to 15 years, and it only works if you never miss one. Honest takeaway: none of this makes a bad car good, and Toyota builds some dull cars. What it does do is change the sums on the ones you'd have written off as too old to bother with. An 8-year-old hybrid with a full Toyota book and an unbroken run of health checks is a genuinely different proposition to the same car with a gap in it. And the price gap between those two on a forecourt is nothing like as big as it ought to be. While you're doing sums, one more. Being a hybrid does not make a car ULEZ or LEZ exempt. It's the emissions standard on the registration document that decides it, not the badge on the boot. Put the plate into the TfL checker or your own council's before you buy anything. Takes 30 seconds and it's free. And I'll say this next bit carefully because I'm not telling you there's a scheme. It's quieter and simpler than any conspiracy. Nobody hid the hybrid health check. Nobody covered up the reset button on the tyre system. There was just never any profit in explaining it, so nobody built the habit of explaining it, and the knowledge grew over like a footpath nobody walks. The advisor at the desk isn't paid to talk you out of a job. The glass fitter isn't paid to make the calibration sound important. That's not wickedness. It's an incentive, and an incentive points the same way every single time. The people who lose the 15-year cover aren't daft and they're not careless. They just answered the question they were asked, which was where do you want it serviced, instead of the one nobody asked them, which was what does that cost you in year 9? None of this is a fault. Every one of them has a bill attached to not knowing it. So tell me in the comments and give me the specifics, because that's what's actually useful to everybody else reading. What model, what year, how many miles is it on, and has a dealer ever once mentioned the health check to you? Yes or no? And if I've got something wrong here, say so plainly and say what the right version is. Somebody will be reading it looking for exactly that. There's a card up on screen now with another one of these. Have a look. It's worth your time. Buy with your head, not the badge. This video is based on publicly available recall notices, MOT test data, safety ratings, reliability surveys, and independent review evidence current at time of publication. Warranty terms, prices and coverage change and vary by vehicle and by dealer. Individual vehicle outcomes vary. Some models may have had subsequent updates, recalls, or improvements. Always obtain current information and independent advice before making any purchase decision.